Hello everyone and welcome to a new video of your Polyglot Academy. Now in this video, I'm going to continue the playlist on how to learn German up to a B1 level with 1,000 words. And we're going to continue with lesson number 8, covering words from 701 to 800. So let's go. And in this lesson, we're going to cover some key words that I maybe forgot during the last lessons, or that may be relevant for, some reading, also some conversation. So especially verbs, nouns, and also adjectives. So please stay tuned for this. Let's start. Now, the first word is going to be gesamt, which means total or entire. Die gesamte Zahl der Schüler ist 500. The total number of students is 500. Next up, we have anfangen, which means to begin, and here's an example. Wir fangen mit der Arbeit 8 Uhr an. We begin work at 8 o'clock. Next up, we have erklären, which means to explain. Kannst du mir das bitte erklären? Can you explain this to me, please? Following up, we have benutzen, which means to use. Benutzt sein Handy jeden Tag. He uses his phone every day. Schlafen means to sleep. Ich schlafe normalerweise 8 Stunden. I usually sleep 8 hours. Now we have verkaufen, which means to sell. Sie verkauft Gemüse auf dem Markt. She sells vegetables at the market. Now we have trinken, which means to drink. Trinkst du Wasser oder Saft? Do you drink water or juice? Now we have helfen, which means to help. Kannst du mir mit den Hausaufgaben helfen? Can you help me with the homework? Now we have verstehen, which means to understand. Ich verstehe dich nicht. I don't understand you. Next up, schön, which means beautiful. Das ist eine schöne Blume. This is a beautiful flower. Now we have hässlich, which means ugly. Das Bild ist hässlich. The picture is ugly. Now we have freundlich, which means friendly. Der Kellner war sehr freundlich. The waiter was very friendly. Now we have klug, which means smart. Dein Bruder ist sehr klug. Your brother is very smart. Now we have teuer, which means expensive. Die Tasche ist zu teuer. The bag is too expensive. Billig, which means cheap. Dieses Hotel ist sehr billig. This hotel is very cheap. Now we have geschlossen, which means closed. Das Geschäft ist geschlossen jetzt. The shop is closed now. Next up, we have leise, which means quiet. Sei bitte leise. Please be quiet. Now we have interessant, which means interesting. Das Buch ist sehr interessant. The book is very interesting. Now we have gefährlich, which means dangerous. Der Hund sieht gefährlich aus. The dog looks dangerous. Kalt means cold. Das Wasser ist kalt. The water is cold. Now we have schmutzig, which means dirty. Dein Hemd ist schmutzig. Your shirt is dirty. Der Tisch means the table. Der Tisch steht im Wohnzimmer. The table is in the living room. Next up, der Bus, which means bus. Der Bus kommt 9 Uhr. The bus arrives at 9 o'clock. Next up, der Lehrer, which means teacher. Der Lehrer erklärt die Grammatik. The teacher explains the grammar. Now we have beschleunigen, which means to accelerate. Der Fahrer beschleunigte plötzlich. The driver accelerated suddenly. Now we have überzeugen, which means to convince. Sie konnte ihn nicht vom Plan überzeugen. She couldn't convince him of the plan. Now word 727, untersuchen, which means to examine. Der Arzt untersuchte den Patienten. The doctor examines the patient. Now we have behandeln, which means to treat. Der Arzt behandelt viele Patienten. The doctor treats many patients. Begründen is the next word, which means to justify. Kannst du deine Meinung begründen? Can you justify your opinion? Now we have darstellen, which means to depict or to portray. Der Film stellt das Leben im Mittelalter dar. The movie portrays life in the Middle Ages. Now we have widersprechen, which means to contradict. Er widersprach dem Lehrer. He contradicted the teacher. Next up, verbieten, which means to forbid. Rauchen ist dir verboten. Smoking is forbidden here. Now we have gestalten, which means to design or to shape. Sie gestaltete ihr Zimmer neu. She redesigned her room. Now we have beeinflussen, which means to influence. Freunde beeinflussen oft unsere Entscheidungen. Friends often influence our decisions. Next up, überwinden, which means to overcome. Er überwand seine Angst. He overcame his fear. Now we have erzeugen, which means to produce or to generate. Windräder erzeugen Strom. Wind turbines generate electricity. Next up, bewältigen, which means to cope with or to manage. Sie hat die schwierige Aufgabe bewältigt. She managed or she was able to cope with the difficult task. Next up, entdecken, which means to discover. Columbus entdeckte Amerika. Columbus discovered America. Verhindern, which means to prevent. Die Polizei konnte den Unfall verhindern. The police prevented the accident. Now we have beachten, which means to take into account or to observe. Bitte beachten Sie die Regeln. Please observe or please take into account the rules. Now we have überleben, which means to survive. Nur wenige Tiere überlebten den Winter. Only a few animals survived the winter. Now we have verlieren, which means to lose. Er verlor seinen Schlüssel. He lost his key. Forschen, which means to research. Die Universität forscht im Bereich Medizin. The university researches in the field of medicine. Now we have verbessern, which means to improve. Er will sein Deutsch verbessern. He wants to improve his German. Anwesend means present. Alle Schüler sind anwesend. All students are present. And the contrary is going to be abwesend, which means absent. Heute ist er abwesend. Today he is absent. Next up we have verfügbar, which means available. Diese Informationen sind online verfügbar. This information is available online. Now we have notwendig, which means necessary. Wasser ist für das Leben notwendig. Water is necessary for life. Now we have unmöglich, which means impossible, and use an example. Es ist unmöglich, das in einer Stunde zu schaffen. It's impossible to do that in 1 hour. Now we have selbstständig, which means independent. Mein Bruder ist sehr selbstständig. My brother is very independent. Now we have abhängig, which means dependent. Er ist finanziell abhängig von seinen Eltern. He is financially dependent on his parents. Now we have häufig, which means frequent. Das ist ein häufiges Problem. This is a frequent problem. Now we have selten, which means rare. Dieses Tier ist sehr selten. This animal is very rare. Now we have angenehm, which means pleasant. Das Wetter ist angenehm. The weather is pleasant. And now unangenehm, which means unpleasant. Das war eine unangenehme Situation. That was an unpleasant situation. Now we have deutlich, which means clear or distinct. Die Schrift ist deutlich lesbar. The writing is clearly legible. Nervös means nervous. Vor Prüfungen bin ich immer nervös. I'm always nervous before exams. Now we got altmodisch, which means old-fashioned. Ihr Kleid ist etwas altmodisch. Her dress is a bit old-fashioned. Now we have kompliziert, which means complicated. Die Aufgabe ist sehr kompliziert. The task is very complicated. Next up, praktisch, which means practical. Das ist eine sehr praktische Lösung. This is a very practical solution. Now we have theoretisch, which means theoretical. Das ist nur eine theoretische Möglichkeit. That is only a theoretical possibility. Now we have realistisch, which means realistic. Dein Plan klingt realistisch. Your plan sounds realistic. Die Verantwortung is the next word, which means responsibility. Eltern tragen Verantwortung für ihre Kinder. Parents have responsibility for their children. Now we have die Entscheidung from the verb entscheiden, which means decision. Die Entscheidung war sehr schwer. The decision was very difficult. Die Beziehung means the relationship. Sie haben eine gute Beziehung. They have a good relationship. Now we have der Erfolg, which means success. Arbeit ist der Schlüssel zum Erfolg. Work is the key to success. Now we have Misserfolg, which means failure. Der Versuch endete im Misserfolg. The attempt ended in failure. Now we have die Gefahr, which means the danger. Hier besteht große Gefahr. There is great danger here. Now we have die Sicherheit, which means safety. Sicherheit ist sehr wichtig. Safety is very important. Now we have die Entwicklung, which means development. Die Entwicklung der Technik ist schnell. The development of technology is fast. Die Wahl means election or choice. Die Wahl findet nächste Woche statt. The election takes place next week. Now we have die Bildung, which means education. Bildung ist der Schlüssel zur Zukunft. Education is the key to the future. We have der Unterschied, which means difference. Es gibt einen großen Unterschied. There is a big difference. Die Meinung means opinion. Jeder hat eine andere Meinung. Everyone has a different opinion. Die Notwendigkeit, which means necessity. Wasser ist eine Notwendigkeit. Water is a necessity. And we have das Verhalten, which means behavior. Sein Verhalten war seltsam. His behavior was strange. Now we have die Umgebung, which means environment or surroundings. Die Umgebung ist sehr schön. The surroundings are very beautiful. Next up, word 778, die Gesellschaft, which means society. Die Gesellschaft verändert sich schnell. Society is changing fast. Die Regierung, which means government. Die Regierung beschließt ein neues Gesetz. The government passes a new law. Now we have die Wirtschaft, which means economy. Die Wirtschaft wächst. The economy is growing. Now we have die Technik, which means technology. Technik erleichtert unser Leben. Technology makes our life easier. Die Zukunft means future. Die Zukunft ist ungewiss. The future is uncertain. Now we have die Gegenwart, which means the present. Lebe in der Gegenwart. Live in the present. Now we have die Kultur, which means culture. Jede Kultur ist einzigartig. Every culture is unique. Die Tradition, which means tradition. Weihnachten ist eine schöne Tradition. Christmas is a nice tradition. Now we have die Religion, which means religion. Religion spielt für viele Menschen eine Rolle. Religion plays a role for many people. Now we have die Kunst, which means art. Kunst inspiriert Menschen. Art inspires people. Now we have die Literatur, which means literature. Studiert deutsche Literatur. He studies German literature. Now we have der Staat, which means state. Der Staat erhebt Steuern. The state collects taxes. Now we have die Pflicht, which means duty. Es ist deine Pflicht, das zu tun. It is your duty to do that. Next up, die Ordnung, which means order. Ordnung muss sein. There must be order. Now we have die Ruhe, which means calmness or peace. Ich brauche etwas Ruhe. I need some peace. Next up, der Frieden, which means peace. Die Menschen wünschen sich Frieden. People wish for peace. Next up, word 794, Schwäche, which means weakness. Jeder Mensch hat Schwächen. Every person has weaknesses. Der Vorteil means advantage. Das ist ein großer Vorteil. That is a big advantage. Now we have der Nachteil, which means disadvantage. Jeder Vorteil hat auch einen Nachteil. Every advantage also has a disadvantage. Die Chance, which means chance or opportunity, is the next word. Du hast eine große Chance. You have a great opportunity. Now we have das Ziel, which means the goal. Mein Ziel ist es, Deutsch zu meistern. My goal is to master German. Now der Traum, which means dream from the verb träumen. Er verfolgt seinen Traum. He's pursuing his dream. And now finally, the last word for today, aufgeben, which means to give up, which is certainly something you shouldn't do. Er wollte nicht aufgeben. He didn't want to give up. So that was it for today. These were the words. If you have any questions whatsoever, please make sure to leave a comment down below. If you liked the video and enjoyed the content, please also subscribe to the channel. And if you have any wishes or any questions on whatever, feel free to write a comment. And other than that, thanks for watching. Have a nice day and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.